For today's video, I played against the highest ranked bot on the AI ladder. There is a ladder somewhere out in the world of StarCraft where bots play each other all day long. Now they do it virtually, and this bot called Eris is the highest ranked bot with a 92% win rate. I decided to play it, and I also had a talk with the creator of the bot. I've been in their Discord a little bit. I've been sneaking in, getting all the information that I can get. The first thing I want to show you guys, by the way, is this absolutely beautiful drone split. Look at this. Goes to the main mineral patch, and then it splits into every single mineral patch. Look at that. Every mineral patch is occupied. All the 4 close mineral patches have 2 drones on them for the first wave pack. That's beautiful. On top of that, there's another trick that the bots use, which is called speed mining. And with the speed mining, what you do is you put a rally point right in front of the mineral patch, and then you give the mining command. And when you go back to the nexus, you do the same thing for the nexus or the hatchery or the command center. You give a command right in front of the building, and then a return cargo command. And this means that the drone, probe, or SCV won't decelerate, de-accelerate, whatever you call it, the opposite of accelerating. And it is a continuous motion. So you even see a little bit of a speed up in a way there in that final part, if you can see that. Quite interesting. This allows the bots to get, well, first of all, this is a 14 hatchery, but it allows them to get a little bit more money in general. By about 12% is what they have. The person who introduced this into the botting community actually is Scarlett, I believe. And Scarlett did that about 18 months ago, and she created a bot called the 4-gate bot, which executed some of the fastest 4-gate, well, actually the fastest 4-gate ever seen by mankind. And now everyone basically uses it. This bot is Eris. It's a bot that uses a single build order and tries to be as reactive as possible. Now, in order to do that, everything is kind of scripted in. So we see this drone just moving around for any potential proxy gates, proxy rexes, whatever you have. At the same time, we have this probe scout is also being chased by a drone. So 2 drones, one for scouting proxies and 1 drone for scouting or for stopping any potential cannon rush. I assume that's why this drone is doing that. Of course, I don't know that for sure, but that is the reason that I find most likely. Nexus goes down for me. I decided to just open up with a standard 1-gate expand rather than doing anything too fancy. I was like, you know what? I can just do a cool 1-gate expand into a Twilight opener, see how the bots respond to that. There are no physical limitations on this bot, so we can see it currently has an average of 1600 and, well, 80-ish APM. That's relatively high. I know Serral has high APM with about 450, 500 maybe. But yeah, this bot is about, 3.5 times as fast as, 3 times as fast as Serral. Something like that. So yeah, it's an impressive speed. But of course, because everything is scripted and there's not much use of machine learning like AlphaStar did, there's also some exploits and, well, some bugs, I guess you could call them. Some definitely some things that you can exploit as a human player or as another botter as well. Let's have a look. So pulling out of gas, going into relatively fast speed. You see that this number constantly changing on the hatchery. The reason for that is, of course, because every single time a drone isn't actually on a mining command or on a returning cargo command, it doesn't get counted as mining. So whenever a drone is moving, it doesn't get counted as being, well, out of the, the 16 out of 16. Because I think currently there is, well, how many workers is there actually mining here? I think it's about 16 workers actually. So it's still maximum saturation like we'd usually see, just slightly different. Very fast Roach Warren. I don't quite know why this Roach Warren is this fast. I'm not aware of any builds that require a Roach Warren at the 3-minute mark, but perhaps there are some builds that I'm completely unaware of that do require this quick of a Roach Warren, especially of course with the speed mining. But for playing against humans, I could not imagine that being super useful, but it's interesting to see nonetheless. Worker count is relatively equal between the two. Of course, one of the main limiting factors for workers in the early game very often is just time. So in this case, for Zerg, that's Larva. So it's not like he can have like 30 more workers because he has slightly more money than a regular Zerg does. A quick burrow research, and this is actually quite cool. Burrow can be used for 2 things, obviously. For 3 things. For hiding units, for microing, and it can also be used for blocking bases. And that is exactly the uses that Eris uses it for as well. And we'll take a look at this micro as well. I think this is such a cute micro, often by these bots. Whenever you walk into a Ling, the Ling starts, well, it looks really weird. It's kind of going back and forth, but you can basically never hit it. So look at this, hop. It just kind of keeps walking away, just barely outside of range, but knowing at all times where you are. If you try to catch it, the only way to catch it is to kind of corner it into a corner. Because one of the main challenges that the creator of Eris told me about is that terrain is really difficult to write code for. It's very difficult to account for every terrain possibility. Now, I shade in with my first 8 adepts. My opponent is not ready whatsoever. Has a drone count that is way too high. Is currently on 3 gases already, which is too high as well to deal with a push like this. And there's just not enough units. So I shade in here, and I could go into the main, I could go into the natural. I decide to go into the natural, and I see this drone line is free. I could have just gone for the drones and probably ended the game at this point. But I decided, you know what? I want to coexist with our machine overlord, so I'm going to be nice to them. You see this micro and this constant kiting, using the burrow to heal up the damaged units. The control on roach armies is really, really stellar. On the double plate, they're also going to get taken out. So I let this bot live, even though I didn't need to. Let's not forget about that. And as a thank you, guess what I get? Get a freaking Ling burrowed onto my 3rd base. So I can't even build a nexus here, which is obviously extremely frustrating to me. And this Ling is just, running away. I can never catch it. Now, I could have just gone for an observer here, but I decided to be fancy. And rather than getting an observer, I decided to use the disruptor shot to clear the Ling. I guesstimated where it was, and I barely managed to get it. I get my nexus down. Beautiful stuff. Absolutely beautiful stuff. At the same time, the macro continues. We see more drones on the way. Hydra then. Tunneling claws, of course. Making sure that the roaches can move when they're underground. I was surprised to see the delayed Evo chamber here as well, by the way. I thought that quicker upgrades might be useful. And we see the APM is increasing ever so slightly at this point. Currently averaging, 4.6k. And, actually, the current average is probably higher. But in the early game, of course, less stuff to do. Not all the creep tumors are being constantly used. So right now, this creep tumor could spread. It's not being spread. This one can't spread yet. We see this queen moving towards the edge. Queen count is at 6, which isn't super high. It isn't super low either. It's a pretty regular queen number. Units, not great at splitting against disruptors. One of the things I noticed. I asked the fella, one of the 2 people that is working on the project of this Zerg bot. And he said that they fixed that in a more current iteration. Or at least they believe they fixed that in a more current iteration. But they haven't done too much testing yet against people who actually play disruptors with it. So he said that it should be at least a lot better. So that was cool to hear. So one of the main things I noticed, of course, that my disruptors got some real juicy shots off in this game. Charge, I research charge, go into my +1 as well. I'm up about 10 workers, but as you can see, I'm actually down in income. Well, now we're... Oh wait, maybe I wasn't down in workers. Well, similar workers perhaps. 8 gases. Maybe these workers actually just finished. So yeah, we'll see the income rise right now. This is kind of funny. So you see 69 workers against 68. My opponent is on 8 gas. I'm on 6 gas. And yet I have a lower mineral income than my opponent. This makes absolutely no sense, of course. There's no major oversaturation in any of my bases. There's like 3 workers too much here. But I mean, he has 6 workers in an extra gas. So he has more gas and more mineral income. Although he's mining with less workers. So it is quite odd. At least in my opinion, I think it's quite odd. At this time, however, I'm harassing 2 sites at once. You see these drones move like an absolute madman. Current APM is about 30k as well. Drones aren't necessarily moving that smart, and I do manage to catch a lot of them. The fight at the front went a little less good than I thought it would. I really struggled fighting a pretty basic Roach Hydra composition, and I found it very tricky with all the burrowing and unburrowing to keep track of how large my opponent's army actually was. Also, the constant movement of these charge lots was really pissing me off, and later on we're actually going to see a pretty crazy attack, or a pretty crazy move with the changelings, not the charge lots, the changelings. As they're extremely annoying. Follow-up is, what is this? Pathogen gland, so most likely infestor. Second Evo chamber going down right now. I think I just hit a disruptor shot. And look at this control here. Absolutely beautiful. Just the constant kiting back. One shot moving forward. One shot moving back. Boom, boom, boom. makes it very difficult for me to fight. Now, this isn't the greatest angle that I'm taking either, but look at the tunneling claws controller. Absolutely great. Current APM is about 28-29k, averaging a solid 8.5. Oh, Disruptor Shot gets, well, kind of gets dodged honestly here. And on creep, it felt almost impossible to get good fights. Like, my army is way higher quality. I'm actually up in upgrades as well, +1 against 0-0. So losing against a pure Roach Hydra army, when you have a higher quality army and you're up in upgrades, well, that was surprising to say the least. And at this point, I actually got really afraid. And for a second, I thought that I was going to die against this bot. And that I was too kind to him by not, you know, taking him out when I had the chance. I could have pulled the plug when I still was in reach. But right now, he had multiple plugs in multiple sockets. And my hands are tied behind my back. I think we missed the Changeling move, but I believe he just tried to surround like an Immortal with Changelings or something like that. It was really silly. I remember being slightly upset by it. Neural Parasite getting researched as well. So I guess the main composition here might be some type of Roach, Hydra, Neural Infestor comp, which is, to me, sounds kind of wild and pretty bad as well against Disruptors in general. Disruptor counter every single unit in that composition. Actual fact. My army is looking very healthy. Army value is pretty close, but I believe with the Immortal count that I have and with the Disruptor in there as well, I'm just looking a little bit stronger at this point still. Couple of Overseers as well. 6 Overseers, 1 per base, or well, one in the natural, 1 in the main. There's none at the third. I'm not quite sure why that's the case. There's 1 over here as well. So the Prism with speed, of course, managing to trick these Hydras, idiots. They'll never catch me. And this is kind of interesting to see. To see the response, I think, to multitasking was very interesting. So right now, I'm moving on top of the creep here, and at the same time, I'm dropping into my opponent's main base. And the response so far is to just send everything straight into the main base, although there is vision of this army. But until I attack a creep tumor, I think it was, that I attacked here, this army doesn't actually kind of register in a way that I'm there, and only starts moving in at this point. The split in army actually, I think, is quite decent. This is the correct amount of roaches to deal with this threat. You don't need more than that. And this army should almost be good enough to deal with this. Well, usually it shouldn't be, but with the micro that we see here, the constant burrowing and pulling back and all the other annoying things. Look at this. Just the micro moving back. You know, this is tiny moves there. Very interesting. I'm going to hit a nice Disruptor shot here as well. I think I hit 3 units. Beautiful stuff. I also send in the DTs. But because there's Overseers basically everywhere. Look at this. He's pulling away from my DTs. Knowing that there's DT and just splitting these drones over and over again. Had to be pretty intense there on the APM. Yeah, 10k average currently still. Spire's going down right now. I am in a pretty big lead. I'm macroing like an absolute teabag though. I have 1k minerals in the bank, 500 gas as well. A lot of the time during this game as I was playing, I kind of just was swearing and cursing because I was annoyed that I couldn't catch the stupid roaches with my Disruptor shots, or that he just kept moving back and my Immortals didn't seem as strong as they usually do. I was pretty upset, and as a result I started floating a fair amount of money. The creep spread, by the way, at this point is also pretty darn impressive, of course. Entire map is pretty much covered, and although I think I cleared a couple of tumors, I cleared 23 tumors, there still is plenty to go around 12 minutes into the game. My army, however, is so big at this point that I think it's very difficult for my opponent to do anything. I like that he didn't try to defend this base, or that the bot didn't try to defend this base, as I don't think it would have been possible. Taking a big concave over here, or well, I'm not sure if it's a concave or just running away from my army at this point. It's hard to say, really. Zealot warp in, going towards the far right side, and I try to kind of trick the AI here by moving through this choke, then seeing if the A move just continues, and that's kind of what happened. At the same time, I'm moving in though, sending Zealots to chase these drones. Look at these drones being carefully microed away. No mineral move command though to go into the main base, and here I just just honestly kind of win the game, basically with one big fight. I'm up like 100 supply. Now, another thing that this bot isn't great at is figuring out that it's dead. It's kind of like the Black Knight in the Monty Python movie. Like, my friend, this game is very, very over. This is not just a mere flesh wound. You are extremely dead. And I think I need to kill basically every single building until this bot realizes that as well and stays in till the very end. I'm, of course, not going to bore you with all of that. Yeah, I thought this was very interesting in general, honestly. The entire thing. Here I even tell the bot to leave the game by telling him out, but he didn't seem so willing to take the hint. And I think he stays in for like another minute or two until I kill most buildings. And then as I'm about to shoot the final building, that's when he actually ends up leaving. And I'm like, well, it's a little late, but whatever, buddy. I did get a good GG, well played. So well-mannered bot as well. I think I pretty much covered everything here. For the people that are wondering if you can also play this bot, yeah, of course, that's possible. I will link to a video made by Catrock, I think is how you pronounce his name, which explains the entire process of setting it up. It takes a little bit, like maybe 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, but then you can play it. The bots, most of them, if you don't abuse them, should be around diamond-ish level. High diamond is what I've heard. And it's really fun to play, just looking at it. If you're interested in maybe making one of these bots yourself, the community that makes these is super helpful. They've been really nice in helping me out, sound not like a complete idiot, and they'll be able to explain everything, what I try to explain here, way better than I did. So be sure to check them out. There will be a link to their Discord in the description down below as well. That's actually going to be it for me today, though. Thanks all so much for watching. I hope you had a great time, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and bye-bye.